Good afternoon again. I'm going to talk about gender-based violence in Haryana. So just to give you the context, Haryana is one of the northwest province in India, as you can see in the box. So some points before I start. Certainly I'm not a subject expert as such. It's a discussion based on my understanding of the subject and my experience. In hand, it's not an academic research paper certainly, and I'm going to talk about a subject which is socially and politically very, very sensitive, and my discussion and my points may have law enforcement bias because I come from that background, and this topic is really big. It has wide implications in terms of socio-economic and others. So I hope and I'll try to do justice with the topic, and your suggestions and feedback is certainly most appreciated. So public outcry against gender-based violence in India is not new. It has been happening for very long, but of late there has been a couple of bad instances, examples, and there have been social mass movements in the country, and which started with the Delhi protest in December 2012, when there was a gang rape of a medical student in a moving bus who ultimately died, succumbed to her injuries. And recently we just witnessed this dignity march, the Garima Yatra as they called it. This was another milestone in terms of people's reaction to this kind of violence in India. This is one thing, 24 states, more than 24 states, they traveled 10,000 kilometers, 65 days, 5,000 women. These women were the victims or the survivors of domestic violence. They traveled length and breadth of the country, and they reached the stage, they talked to people, they expressed their concerns about the issue. They, without any fear and without any shame, they talked about their experiences, what they had. And also they exhorted the authorities and the government, people in government, to come forward and do something about it, something substantial, something on ground. And moreover, they wanted a say in decision making related to these issues. So this is something which actually shook the country very recently, and this has happened in February 2019. So this is another milestone in terms of public outcry from the people. It shows that there is no more we are going to tolerate this. So certain factors which has brought this issue to the limelight. Obviously the mainstream and the social media has played a big role, and there have been frequent protests by women organizations and civil bodies, and at times when there is even an effort to do little hanky-panky by the authorities or law enforcement officers, the courts are really active and alert. They take suo motu cognizance of such issues, and they make state and officers the party, and they call them, summon them, and they give them timeline to take action. And couple of times there have been examples of exploitation of these issues by the opposition parties. So everyone, nobody wants to lose ground in terms of voters. So they remain alert and respond to the situations. And obviously there have been increased, enhanced awareness and opening up of the victims or the families of these victims. They have now number of platforms available to express their grievances and the concerns. Just to define what do we understand by sexual and gender-based violence. This is the most widely accepted definition. It has been taken mainly from the UN sources. So I'll just read it out for you. This is an act of violence that is perpetrated against a person's will and is based on gender norms and unequal power relationships between men and women. And this includes not only this, but threats of violence and coercion. It can take any form: physical, emotional, psychological, and sexual in nature. It also includes the denial of resources and access to services, which is really important. So it's just not a violence and a crime, it's a violation of human rights also, which actually impedes the human dignity and it hurts the human development of the victim. So mainly they say it is rooted in the individual attitude who support and condone the violence within family, community and the state. So mainly it inflicts, like it includes the cases against women and girls. So as I mentioned, it includes all, like at least these 4 types of violence: physical, sexual, emotional. I've tried to give some examples to understand the subject better. So I would like to highlight the economic violence, which sometimes is not understood and taken that ways. So this is limiting the access to the basic needs, lack of health facilities, withholding monetary supply, just to add a few. So worldwide, if we talk, this problem is, it has its presence in almost all corners of the world, and the numbers are really staggering, the numbers of these women and girls who are affected by this violence of the problem. As WHO data says, 2013, 1 in every 3 women has been beaten or coerced into sex or abused in some other way, most often by someone who knows, and 1 in 5 sexually abused as child, which is really a startling fact and really shocking. UNFA, this UN Population Fund, is the body which actually deals with this kind of issue and to further the gender equality and women empowerment, and also takes care to address the emotional and physical consequences of this violence. We come to India. What is the scenario? This violence against women in India, women and girls in India, is really widespread. It's there both in public and private sphere. There's no denying that. And the important fact is it's unreported. Number of cases still, whatever figures we have, I'll talk about the figures, crime incidence as well as the specific crime rate, but there's a large number of cases which go unreported, and there are a number of reasons for that. As I mentioned, there is systemic and social obstacles or barriers to that. If we talk about the social barriers, there is family, peer pressure, there is a fear of being stigmatized, and they feel that they will have, like particularly girls will have no life after that, they'll get difficulty in getting married. And systemic barriers, sometimes they don't have access to they don't feel confident enough to travel to the police station and complain. And there are harassment in terms of procedures, criminal justice system and the procedures they adapt to deal with those cases, and number of other systemic barriers which actually discourage them from coming forward and complaining about that. And whatever formal mechanisms we have in place, sometimes we feel that they are not effective or ineffective as such. In spite of the recent progressive legislative measures which have been taken, which includes the capital punishment for the rapist of a child who is under 12 years of age, and all these progressive measures have come into being just because of the efforts by this women rights movements and media and number of public campaigns about this. The violence, the gender-based violence still continues in the country, and it's a big barrier to socio-economic growth of the victims or the female gender in particular, and which ultimately affects the national growth and national development also, which I'll talk along with a World Bank study which has been done towards it. So this is some related statistics which actually maybe some of the figures may indicate that this is cause of the gender-based violence, and some may indicate that it's a manifestation. So generally speaking, the population, as we know, is more than 1 billion, and we have 48% females. Literacy rate is 63. For male it is 81%. These are 2011 Government of India figures, because we have census every 10 years. So next we'll have in 2021. So urban and rural percentage also I've shown. The important part is women participation in employment. So as a country, as a nation, we have 31% participation, and they contribute 17% of GDP, in contrast to 40% of GDP in China, like if we compare the figures. And recently 20 million women have dropped out of the workforce between this 2005 and 2012. The World Bank study says if at least 50% women enter the workforce in India, we can accelerate our growth process by 1.5%. And they have also studied like what good work have been done recently, like from 1994 to 2012, they have studied that 133 million people have been brought out of poverty. But this pace can only be maintained when we allow or when we facilitate, when we make a conducive environment in the country for the females to come forward, to educate, to give them better health facilities and to enter the workforce. Then only we can maintain that pace of growth and development. So far as political representation of women in India is concerned, at national level, like we have, as we have Congress and Senate there, we have upper house and lower house there in country. So there we have 11 to 15% roughly, depending on which election. But the good part is at local level, we have 33% representation. This has happened because 33% women, like there are reservation. So candidates, 33% candidates has to be women. So there is no choice. So this is how they have ensured that at least at the grassroots level, panchayat level, block level, the representation of women is good enough, sufficient enough to give them a word or the voice. Sex ratio at birth, which we define as number of females per 1,000 males, which is 944, which is actually less than the normal standard. It should be somewhere between 955 to 960 or above that. As the sociologists say, once you reach that level, then it actually evens out. Then if you leave it to the nature, then the sex ratio, it evens out. So then you need not interfere in any manner. Primary health care, like I have specifically talked about, sex ratio for 0 to 6 years, which is even lower, which shows that the girl child is not given ample or sufficient medical facilities or maybe other kind of take care which is required. So they are treated as unwanted child in the society, like they are not wanted, so they are not taken care of well. So they tend to collapse much more than the male child. Coming to Haryana and the comparative statistics, the same. So we have, it's a smaller state. We have just 3% of India's population. So females are 11.5 million. It's although we have high rate of urbanization, but still a lot of rural population exists there. And see the difference between the sex ratio of the country and the state. So for country it was 944, and for the state it is 916, which clearly shows that we have a gender bias, like in terms of preference for the male child and not liking the female child as such. And fortunately enough, this has recently improved. As you can see, 2011 figures, it was 879, even less than 900. And recently, because of all these efforts by the governments, it has come up. And the gap between the literacy, like gap between male and female in terms of literacy is huge. It's 20%. And women participation, where the national average was 31%, in Haryana it is just 19%. See the difference, like just to highlight how the things are different. And political representation remains the same because there are a number of factors for that. Local level, again, it is 33%. Again, coming to the sex ratio for 0 to 6 years, it's really the lowest in the country. It's really shocking, and it's a matter of, really we feel bad about it. 834. So coming to the crime figures against women and the overall crime figures, the first figures are CAW is crime against women, and the first two figures, All India and Haryana, they are crime against women figure. The like 3 years figures comparison, it's overall crime against women cases registered in the country, and in Haryana then we have, in terms of rank in the country, we have 29 states. Although in terms of population, we are 18th in rank, in terms of area, we are 21st. But in terms of crime against women, we rank 6th. So much of like difference and bias. And when we come to the overall crime, then again we rank 4. So just to bring home the point that in terms of population and the size, our rank ideally should be in 14, 15 or above that, but we are really, really high on these two factors. If we talk about Haryana's position, we have really very good, impressive record in terms of development. We have highest per capita income in the country. So this is another contrast. We have in terms of development, urbanization, our state like encircles Delhi from 3 sides, and we have a lot of good industries. Everything is there. But when it comes to the issues related with women, so there are some serious problems or issues. Poor record in sexual and gender-based violence, I have talked about. We are the highest, one of the highest in the country. And even if we compare our state with the equally like states of equal size or population, particularly if I take an example of Punjab, which is just adjacent to us, which is almost equal in size. So we are really very bad in terms of if we compare ourselves with those states also. So their crime rate is much lower than ours. Overall crime against women figures are lower. So, and unfortunately enough, some recent rape cases, particularly against children below 12 years, brought this issue to the like forefront, not only for the government, but for the civil society, public. Although there was politicization of some of the issues, some of the cases, but still this issue is really serious. And we have this paradox and contrast, like we produce the best sports persons in the country and they bring the maximum medals. Like Haryana's share is again 3% when it comes to the medals. We bring more than 30-40% of the medals. So again, this is also a complex thing which sometimes we fail to understand why this is happening. And we have produced likes of Kalpana Chawla. You must have heard it, the astronaut. She was with NASA, and in an unfortunate incident, she died in like that space shuttle. So I'll talk about the main reasons which we have analyzed. So mainly the patriarchal society. We have Khap Panchayats. Khaps are the kind of it's a group of cluster of villages or the clans who supposedly are self-proclaimed leaders of that particular clan or the community, and they issue dictates. They say that this would be done, this will not be done. So, and they have some recognition in the society, but not much. And we have instances of honor killings also in the country. And I talked about the representation of women at local level, which is 33%, but in practice, their husbands run the show from behind. They are the actual representatives, but whenever there are meetings, either they don't turn up at all, their husbands come up, or even if they come up, like they just sit beside the male counterparts and then they run the show, and practically like just in the name of that particular female who was actually, as per the legal obligations, she only was supposed to be the representative, but the things are really different on ground. And we have really high economic dependence on man. The literacy rate and education we have already talked about. And there are prejudices and attitudinal issues. The victims are not treated well, they are humiliated at police stations. There are examples. I'm not saying that everyone is treated like that, but there are examples. Because it then discourages the victims to come forward and talk the facts or the truth of the matter. So, and again, there are like the social shaming and this social stigma. There are issues of this strong preference for the male child, and we have illegal abortions in US. It's legal to get the prenatal test done, whether it's a male or female, but in our country, it's not legal. You cannot go to a doctor and find out it's a male child, it's going to be a male child or a female child, because there is a fear of otherwise they'll get it aborted. So very stringent laws have been put in place for that. So no sex determination is possible. And sex ratio I have already talked about. Another thing which contributes maybe to this kind of mindset or preference for the male child are the social evils like dowry and child marriages. Dowry is, maybe you guys are aware of this, dowry is the money, the gold, the wealth which is given at the time of marriage from the bride's family to the groom's family. So it depends on their economic status. Sometimes people expect much beyond that, and whenever a girl child is born in the family, like the father or the parent, they start saving things and they're planning things. And we have schemes also in the country which, like, because they know that after age of 18 or 21, whenever you plan to get her married, there will be expenses in terms of not only the hosting these functions and giving money, cash, jewelry, a lot of stuff. So these are things which also contribute to this kind of a difference or biases. So coming to the policy measures to fight the evil, I'm just talking about the recent ones which have been taken of late, not the general which have been present for a number of years before. So Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao is one, saving and educating the girl child. All these two schemes are although the Government of India schemes, but Haryana being in the news for wrong reasons, this scheme was launched from Haryana in February 15, 2015 by Prime Minister himself, just to give the message down the line that this is the place where we need to adopt and take these measures very, very seriously and do something on ground so that things can change for better. So this is one scheme which actually focuses on preventing gender-based violence and sex selective elimination and ensuring the girl survives. And there is no like external manipulation in terms of whatever nature decides, we have to go by that. No intervention from the human, and then educating them and empowering them. Then another thing, one-stop center Sakhi, which is a very, very important development. I think it will go a long way and it will have a good impact on this gender-based violence and this gender biases in the society. So this is the integrated support and assistance which provide all kind of facilities or services like police help, medical assistance, and psychological and emotional counseling, even temporary stay for the victims. So all kind of support is provided under like one roof, just one place, and they also reach out to the victims. This is the good part. There are other policy measures which have been taken by Government of Haryana, because those schemes were primarily started by the Government of India but adopted by Government of Haryana in a big way and are being taken really very seriously. So we have victims compensation in place, legal assistance is there, the victims can take attorney of their choice. It's not like, normally it is presumed that the people who come or work with the government, they are not as good and they cannot actually do justice to their cases, they cannot defend them well. So the victims can take or choose different attorney of their choice, government will pay for it. And certainly we have improved healthcare facilities for them, access to healthcare facilities, and stringent laws are in place now, particularly for minor girls. As I mentioned, capital punishment. Haryana is one of the 3 states in the country which has come up with this legislation to like they have pronounced capital punishment for the this perpetrators of crime against minors, the sexual crime. And we have all women PCRs, police control rooms in place, all women police stations in place. I would like to mention here, all women PCR was the thing which I started when I was heading a district named Karnal in Haryana, 2010. Then I extended it to other parts of my district, then it was adopted by the state government, and then it spread all across Haryana, it became a part of the policy. And then they extended it to all women police stations, so that women do not hesitate to come forward and talk about their sufferings or whatever has happened with them. They feel more comfortable, at ease to talk to their female counterparts. We have now extended even further. We have women help desks in their vicinity where they can approach. They also reach out to make them aware or to take care of whatever complaints they have. And we have increased women force, police force in the country, which is probably one of the is on the higher side. We have 9% women in the police force. And the investigations related to domestic violence and crimes against women, there is a timeline. You cannot go beyond 1.5 months. You have to finish the, like 1.5 months is the maximum. 15 days to 1.5 months depending on the gravity of the offense. So within that period of time, you have to complete the investigation and you have to submit the challan in the court. So police cannot hold the investigation for more than this period of time. And the open or the free registration of complaints or the cases, and law enforcement agencies have also been sensitized, are being sensitized as such to take care of this issue. And the government has made the education of females up to 12th grade or standard, like it's free. They have come up with number of good colleges for women. Now in Haryana we have women college every 20 kilometers, so that they do not feel or because they do not feel insecure and unsafe while traveling, because they don't want to go to the far off places for the education. They cannot stay out of home. They cannot probably afford the hostel facilities. So this is another good development which has come up, and government has reserved like spots for female, that this particular percentage of the jobs will go to female, so that they can feel empowered and they can come forward, they can join the workforce, they can contribute to the development. Coming to the challenges, in spite of all these efforts and all these policy measures and whatever is being done, we have to fight with the regressive cultural milieu of patriarchy, as we have talked about, and the male chauvinism, which has been there for so long. Sometimes when I talk about this topic, people like feel at odds. Normally they have seen females talking about these issues, and and another thing, we have deepening agrarian crisis and joblessness in the country, in my state, and the youth are really they're falling prey to the drugs and other vices and getting into the crimes. So they actually needed to be engaged as such, and the mindset of the people, particularly a certain age group, that remains the same. It's really hard to change, and we are really struggling with that. They see women as mere commodities at the men's disposal. So this is another challenge we are facing. And number of times the irresponsible statements by politicians, sometimes they talk about, like, if something has happened, some rape incident has happened or some harassment has happened, molestation, so they'll talk about their dressing. Oh, she was not appropriately dressed. What was the need to come out at that particular point in time? Or what was the need to go to that place? So these kind of statements, who are responsible people, authorities or people in power, actually gives a very bad, wrong message to the perpetrators of crime, criminals. They think that if the female or the women are dressed up in a particular way, then they probably get a right to do some, like, right to molest them or whatever. So and there has been politicization of some issues, which actually does more harm than good to the victims, because sometimes it's really difficult to come out with the truth and investigate things, because there is a lot of pressure from the organizations and women bodies, and people sit on dharnas. They don't let you do things. They don't, like, they practically make the victims hostage with themselves. They don't allow them to talk and come out with the truth. So this is another challenge, and we have lack of coordination issues with the prosecuting agencies. So sometimes right evidences and the sequence of events, everything is not put in file the way it should be. So it really becomes difficult to prove the case in court. So this is because I'll talk about it. We have conviction rate of just 13.6%, which is abysmally low, I would say. And if I compare this figure with India, like national level, it's 19.6 or 7, but in the state it is just 13, even like worse. Recently, the government of Haryana has come up with a vision statement, or because number of things have been tried or is being tried. Now they feel that we need to take a concerted effort to, like, go all out to deal with this problem. So it's a first of its kind in India, I would say probably to my knowledge and understanding, no other state has come up with something like this. It encompasses all the related agencies, and they have made them accountable. They have made them, like, it's a matrix has been designed and put in place, who is supposed to do what in what situation, what is their role, and how will it affect the victim, and there is a proper system in place to monitor. It has been launched very recently, just end of last year, end of 2018. So it has to take shape, but it's a very, very well thought of and very well designed initiative. Probably it will help the cause. So these are the key departments which have been taken into loop. It's a good example of collaborative governance, I would say. So as you can see, we have women and child development, we have health, we have police, we have education, social justice, information, tourism, transport, everybody is there, and all these commissions which work for the cause of the women in the state, they have also been looped in. And 6 key areas which have been identified is the child development, education, women empowerment, health, media, and the legal services. There are a couple of other schemes for women and the girls. I would not take much time with these kind of schemes, but just to give you an idea that almost every issue or the concern which which can help these victims or which can help prevent these kind of violence and these kind of incidents have been like thought of and taken care of in terms of, like, we have schemes for relief and rehabilitation of women. We have protection from the domestic violence. We have like sexual harassment of women at workplace. We have committees formed in every office, every department, and they, like, generally females head those. We have working women's hostel. We have aftercare homes. We have like skill development programs for them, number of things. So last year, before I came here, in July itself, government came up with one more reform, Ek Aur Sudhar. This mainly focuses on the safety and security of females. We have more number of police personnel, and the target is to go up to 15%. From 6%, we have 9% of women police force, to give women, like victims, confidence that everywhere, wherever they go and approach, they have female counterparts to take care of their complaints. We have women help desk. We have like squads to respond to the situations. Very important, we have established fast track courts. Now courts have also been told to like do the hearings on a fast track basis. Day to day, they take just cases related to violence against women. They don't take any other cases. So they just do day-to-day trial, like sessions trial as we call it. So they finish it off as early as possible, so that the message goes down really well, and the conviction happens really fast, and the cases are decided in time. Moreover, this is important because half of the compensation to victims goes once the case is decided in favor of the victim or they are convicted. Whatever is compensation, like for the acid victim, government has announced 5 lakh rupees or $500,000. So the half of it will go once the case is registered with the police. The rest will go once the case has been finalized by the court, and it has been like its fate is in conviction, not the acquittal. So we have training in self-defense for girl child. We have free of cost transportation facilities. The public transport also is being strengthened to ensure the safety and security of the females. We have segregated like separate places to sit there in the buses. We have cameras. We have responsible. We have made the bus drivers and the conductors also. We have one assistant in our buses, so they have been made responsible. If something goes wrong, it is his responsibility to identify and come up with the details, the truth of the victims. Not only the victims, but the who are the perpetrators, because they generally know the people who travel on that particular route. So it has also helped a lot. And presently we have 26 women police stations in the state. We have in all districts, we have 22 districts and couple of districts which are bigger, we have more than one police station. There is another thing which is about kind of a awareness campaign. We have come up with a curriculum to teach the girl child the good touch, bad touch. It has become a part of curriculum now, and they have to compulsorily read it and understand the dangers of sexual violence, the child abuse, assault, whatever. And the provisions of Indian Penal Code and this POCSO is prevention of child against sexual assault. So so all those provisions are they are told about it. These are the provisions, these are the protections you have. This is the way you can respond, this is the way you can approach the authorities. So all these things are also helping us. Coming to the way forward, we have seen the policy measures, the response, the challenges. So certainly some visible progress has been made over time, but it's not enough. We have a long way to go. There are things which are still bothering us, pestering us, and like if we talk about the figures, they don't talk good still. So I don't know how is this possible, but we have to work something regarding the regressive mindset and the gender-based prejudices which go back into the history, or like which are there in the society, very much in the society. So we have to work with the youth particularly. We have to tell our children at home that you have to treat women and girls with respect and equality. We need a lot of support from these private bodies or the NGOs, women associations, social service organizations. And zero tolerance to crimes against women is being implemented in the state already, but it's a process which should go on. It just cannot stop with 1, 2 or number of cases. It has to be there in every single instance. We should have the fair and time-bound investigations with certainty. It will rise, the conviction rate will rise with that. If somebody falters, we should fix accountability and take them to task. We need to go ahead with sensitization and awareness programs of all the stakeholders, including teaching our own children, male child at home in the family, just rather than just looking outside. It should start from home rather. This is what I think. So we need broad-based initiative which has recently been taken by the government, and we need a sustained movement and sustained effort with all these things. And the approach should be holistic. It should not be a knee-jerk reaction or just a piecemeal approach, because sometimes when the government feels that it's a big issue, it has become big because of some high-profile case or something, it's being political, then they try and do whatever best is possible. But to my mind, this should be it should be a normal response to every case or every situation. Then only things will change, and the people will get the impression that no nonsense will be tolerated. Zero tolerance means zero tolerance. And there has been a discussion of late about this capital punishment thing. Some people say that these are mere rhetorics by the politicians to take this mileage, because as per the studies show, when there are more stringent punishments, the perpetrators of crime are more likely to kill the victim. So still there is a debate about it. People say that they probably should not go for the extreme kind of things. They can enhance the number of years of imprisonment or some kind of other penalties, because particularly when the victim is a minor, because they think that the perpetrators think that she is the only witness to the crime. So if I'll kill her or the victim, then probably he can escape the process of law. I don't know. This has been it was being debated of late. So certainly law enforcement agencies has a big role to play. They should be made accountable, and government should be answerable. They should be in the forefront of these issues. They should not shirk from their responsibilities. And we have certainly examples of people, of women, their unflinching courage certainly against the who's who or big wigs. They didn't relent, they just stood by, and then they came forward with their complaints, long trials which went into sometime 5, 7, 8 years of trial, and then they were convicted. This Gurmeet Ram Rahim case, probably you must have heard, it happened in September August 2017. It was a big news in India, and he was to be produced in the court. He is a like self-proclaimed godman who has a big empire in place. So he's behind bars now. We have an instance of Ruchika Girotra case. She was molested by one of the senior police officials. Then she came forward and he was put behind bars. And then recently we had Varnika Kundu matter, and the perpetrator was son of the top leader in the state, the top leader of the party in power. So he was put behind the bar. So we have examples, the women, the female, they have shown the courage, and they have shown resilience to all these kind of pressures and whatever the stereotypes in the society. They have proved that no, we are not going to stay silent, we are going to come out and we are going to take these people to the process of law. So there's a time is now, we cannot just ignore it. The big social movement is almost like staring at us, is on the way, and we have to take all the efforts to unleash the full socio-economic potential of women, to get the best in the country, to contribute, to make them contribute not only to the national development but to realize their full potential, and for their self-development also. So that's it. I open to questions now. I don't know how much time did I take. I don't know.
Questions?
Okay.
Nice presentation. I was wondering if there are any interventions targeted towards the behavior of men.
See, as I told you, we need to do more on this front. I must confess this, but there have been awareness campaigns certainly, which target not only the female girls but the boys in schools and colleges. But for the society in general, probably not. The people who are in some kind of position or authority, or who are serving with some department, they are being sensitized, or they are being made aware, or they are being actually told about things, but not the society, male society in general. Only through these education institutions we are trying to approach them. Yes. Sure.
Thank you so much, Rakesh, for your very informative presentation. So for India being a federation, what are the differences in legislation and regulations addressing the problem across the country? How is it culturally influenced maybe?
See, there is a lot of diversity in terms of like society and their responses, their prejudices, their attitude. There are states where we have this sex ratio is more than 1,000. Like Inita is here, she is from Tamil Nadu, one of the state from southernmost part of the country. So it's more than 1,000. Even Kerala also, another southern states. So, but so far as legislation is concerned, the most of the legislation is done by the union government. So it's applicable throughout the country. But for some specific things, states has also the right to legislate on their own, but they have to get it ratified by from the government of India or the union, so that it is not in contravention of whatever laws exist. So as I gave an example of this capital punishment, just 3 of the states have done it. So Haryana is one of the state. So once we passed it in our state assembly, so we sent it across to Government of India to ratify it. So once it was approved from there, then it is applicable. So but mainly Government of India, we have more than 35 laws or acts in place for the safety and security of women, related to women, we can say.
Thank you so much. 2 questions. One, do you see any significant difference in the incidence of violence, the statistics between the National Capital Region and the rest of Haryana? And the fast track courts that you were talking about, what sort of evidence do they usually need in cases of domestic violence to reach a conviction? Is it only medical, or do they go with the victims?
Okay, your first question is about the if I talk about Delhi itself, National Capital Territory, because region includes at least half of Haryana, maybe more. So we have a different types of crime against women in urban areas and rural areas. The type is different, but so far as incidence of crime is concerned or the total number is concerned, is like not much difference is there. And but the problem of reporting of the crime is certainly there. In urban areas, they are more likely to report a crime. In rural areas, they have a lot of social family pressures, because normally they don't want to go alone to the police station. Nobody would like to come with them. If they go alone and then come back, then again they fear the backlash from their own family or maybe from their neighbors, because they try and settle things, and then they try and tell her, okay, this is a normal thing, this happens, so it's not a big thing, you should not spoil your family life for this. So it's this culture of staying silent and not reporting is like feeded or encouraged. So that difference is there. So far as the evidence in courts, fast track courts is concerned, the evidence, the type of evidence remains the same. Only for the normal courts and the fast track courts, the only difference is the speed. They don't put longer dates, they take it on day-to-day basis. And the statement of the victim is really, really important. It's really important, that carries a lot of weight. But with that, even if there is no strong or substantive scientific evidence is there, court generally goes for circumstantial evidence, so that that proves the case. Or if the defense counsel is able to come up with something which is really against the statement of the victim. So normally, but they tend to go in favor of the victim. They tend to believe the victim. It's not like not believing, as happens in most of the other cases. So I would like to give you an example. There was a rape case registered in one of the districts in Rohtak where I was serving. So the female was obviously claiming that she was coming back from college, and she was picked up and then taken in a car, and then all these people, whatever happened then. But the people she was naming, they had that particular day and time, they were present in some other city. And they had, fortunately nowadays we have more and more video cameras in shopping complexes and malls, and he happened to visit one of the offices also. So they had those kind of evidences. So those things that didn't actually stand in the court. This is how it goes.
If I may add,
Please go ahead.
domestic violence is different from sexual offense. There are categorizations. Like domestic violence, you have a different channel. It is not considered as a crime per se. Like you will not enter the criminal justice system directly. There is a separate system for that. But when it comes to sexual offences,
Yeah, because it is not cognizable. Because
domestic violence is not covered.
it is a separate act, and it is not cognizant. It cannot be taken cognizance by the court directly.
directly it has to come through certain officers, and which is not with the police to file a court, what he means to say. But depending on violence includes what, if there is a physical violence, we have, most likely we add the sections of IPC which makes it cognizable normally. So this happens. But whatever you are saying, technically if it is a purely domestic violence kind of a case, then police they just take the complaint and they just forward it to the concerned officer. They make a report, and then as a partly criminal and partly civil matter, they put it in the court, because it includes certain other things in terms of maybe rehabilitation, counseling, compensation, depending on the gravity of the case. I think I have.
You are right.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Because you asked about domestic violence. See, in India, because of the patriarchal mindset, suppose if the couple doesn't have a child, I'm just putting an example.
Thank you very much for adding that.
So the blame goes on the woman, and the man automatically gets the right to justify another marriage. This is a kind of harassment, which if she feels that she is being harassed, then she can take the benefit of this.
I don't understand that. Can you repeat it?
Suppose if a couple doesn't have a child, the woman will be the sufferer in the society. The society sees that the woman has the problem and she is responsible, so the man has to marry again.
Doesn't have
He
to,
can marry again.
It actually becomes one of the grounds to remarry. I don't know. We don't have probably I don't have examples in my mind. Probably he
And
must
another
have.
is dowry. Suppose one thing is when you get married, the groom gets the FT amount. After that, at any point of time, suppose if he wants to start a business or something like that, he expects the girl's family to support him financially. He considers that as a right. So every time he is in financial need, he will ask his wife to, bring money from her parents, from her home. She's not able to come again. They start harassing the entire family of the bride, the in-laws, the father-in-law, mother-in-law, sometimes. So it is just considered as an acceptable behavior in the rural part. Now the situation has been slowly changing, but the act was enacted in 2005 to address such societal issues.
Like it has no legal backing, but he's talking about the attitude of the people in society. About this dignity march, which I mentioned, where all these victims and the survivors of this violence, they came out on road and talked about their experiences and just sought the intervention from the government. One of the families, when they went back after this march, they were assaulted by their immediate family members badly, really badly. So this is the kind of situation still in the rural areas, which is a challenge for us again.
I think we have time for one more question.
So my comment actually relates to Mavericks. It looks like we've put a lot in place to support women and to empower them and to work to keep them safe. I guess my thought about culturally thinking about as many options to put culture change in place as far as, challenging the mindset, challenging the belief that certain behaviors are acceptable, and you had mentioned the idea of not speaking up, like maybe a campaign about speaking up is okay, or thinking about it in terms of addressing the whole system. So you've got half the system really well covered, it sounds like, and now addressing the other half
Correct.
as comprehensively.
Thank you very much for the suggestion.
We're starting to.
Thank you very much for the suggestion. Thank you. Yes, yeah.
I have one here. It's about I know one of the most important things I know about India is like you have the class system.
Caste system. Yeah.
I don't know whether it exists, and also you
Still,
have a lot
yes,
of,
it does.
You have a lot of, I think, religion. Like
See, regions are not as per the caste system. Like in every region, there is a caste system existing. Probably about caste system, my friend from Uttar Pradesh, like who is serving in Uttar Pradesh, he can speak more about it, because it exists. Particularly, I'm not sure about the southern part of India, but
It's everywhere.
it's everywhere. It does. But nowadays it's fading away, but it still is there in society. I won't say like it's no more there. It's fading away. It has diluted a lot, like because in our country we have positive discrimination. So people from so-called like these downtrodden communities or the lower caste system, they have been given reservation in government services or admissions to higher institutions. So there is a whole generation or two, they have come out of that kind of thing, but still that mindset remains, and sometimes, rather most of the times, people try and identify themselves with particular caste, and they try and know the other person's caste before they go forward, like in terms of interacting, dealing. It's a mindset which is still there. And I would also like to mention again about the dignity march thing. These were the women who came from the tribal regions and mostly from the lower caste, so-called lower caste strata of the society, who have no access to the campaigns like Me Too. So for them it was a big thing really to come out of that social stigma and to whatever social the shaming is there, coming out and going all around and reaching on the stage, talking to people, sharing experiences. So it was a thing which actually has an impact on society and the people who are working with this field. Yeah.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.